What up, YouTube Live? What's up? How's it going, everybody? This is Friday, January. What date is it today? January 18th. Friday evening, January 18th, 2019. And I'm here to give you my review of DC Universe animated series Young Justice Outsiders, episode 7, 8, and 9. Remember, they release 3 episodes each week, every Friday. So today there are 3 new episodes, and I'm here to discuss all 3 of them. Uh, just like with all my episode recaps and TV reviews, I will be discussing some spoilers. So heads up, spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! But as I mentioned to you many times, I grew up a DC fan, so I can't miss out on talking about Young Justice Outsiders. Um, I, I I was a late bloomer when it comes to Marvel fan. Being a Marvel fan not till like later on in my adult life, but DC Superman. That's what I grew up with, man. Mm. And I'm a big fan of this animated series. I'm so glad that it's back, and it's season 3, aka Young Justice Outsiders. By the way, before we get to my review, uh, just want to let you guys know that there's some good news here. I got confirmed for pro- I got confirmed for press credential to cover this year's South by Southwest Film Festival in Austin, Texas this March. Yeah! Do-do-do-do-do-do-do. Do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do. I'm so happy, man. That's like that was my first time applying for South by Southwest. I was not expecting to get approved, first time out. You know what I'm saying? Because South by Southwest is huge. It's one of the biggest festivals of the year. I'm thinking like, screw it. Let me just apply. And I guess if I get rejected, it's understandable. It's I'm a small outlet. I'm not Joe Blow or Slash Film, and so I'm gonna keep I'm gonna keep my expectations low so I wouldn't get disappointed. So I'm coming in with that, and voila, they emailed me today. It's like, you have been approved for one press credential to cover South by Southwest. I don't know if I'll end up covering it though. Uh, because it seems like, when you consider the flight and the hotel fees, accommodations, and the rental car when I'm there, it's gonna burn a hole in my pocket. So I I don't know if I'll end up going. But the notion is just nice. It feels good that South by Southwest welcomes me. But if you think that I should go and cover this festival, I could use your help. So please help support me and this channel, Rama Screen, at patreon.com/Rama Screen. It all depends on that. It all depends on the budget. Whether or not I'm in, it's already answered. I'm in. They allow me to be in. So that's not a problem at all. But the budget of me going there and staying there for that whole week, that's still up in the air. So yeah, if you can help support um, my covering of South by Southwest this year, please do so by signing up at patreon.com/ramascreen. Okay, so let's get to Young Justice Outsiders episode 7, titled Evolution. Now, mm, gotta have my Coke. Gotta have my Coke. This is my kryptonite right here. Woo! I might die young just because I drink too much Coke. uh, okay, essentially, there are 2 plots going on in this episode, one of which focuses on Vandal Savage and his daughters, and the other one is a continuation of the training that the new members of the Young Justice Outsiders have been going through. Remember, there's Halo, there's Breon Markov, and then there's Forger, right? The 3 new members. And so those are the 2 plots going on. Evolution, of course, the title um, refers to more about the Vandal Savage plot. And let me just start by saying, okay, Vandal Savage is back. Remember, I mentioned in my previous reviews of Young Justice Outsiders episodes, I mentioned to you that, well, at the end of season 2, Vandal kind of visited Apocalypse, visited Darkseid, and that's it. That was never addressed, or that had never been addressed yet in season 3, in this current season 3, Young Justice Outsiders. And so I mentioned to you that maybe that means that the writers just wanted to move on, because we already had enough of Vandal Savage in the Young Justice Invasion, season 2. Maybe the writers think, like, you know what, let's start afresh and move on. Let's move forward with these 3 new characters joining the team, and the whole arc about um, Dick Grayson, Nightwing, forming his own covert op outside the Justice League parameters. Let's move forward with that instead of coming back to like that cliffhanger, of Vandal Savage meeting Darkseid. Um, and I thought that was the last that we'll see of Vandal Savage. But boy, be careful what you wish for. Vandal Savage shows up in episode 7, titled Evolution, and the plot is basically him and 2 daughters. The young, remember, Vandal Savage lives eternally, right? He has lived forever since the caveman era, and in this episode, the writers basically wanted to go back to that history again. The writers wanted to not only humanize Vandal Savage, but also present the history, the overall, like, this is what Vandal Savage is about once again, just in case you or some of you may not be familiar with Vandal Savage, the character. So this episode, even though part of it focuses on the training of those 3 new guys, a big chunk of it is like an homage to Vandal Savage, a tribute, if you will. And so, because he lives eternally, he has had many sons and many daughters over the years, thousands of years, right? And they've come and gone, they've lived and died, and he kept on living. And so one of the daughters is pretty young, and the other daughter is in her old age. Obviously, they're not directly related. Um, and the older daughter, she's going senile. She's losing her mind, and she's telling the younger, I guess her sister, if you will, uh, Vandal Savage's younger daughter, the story of Vandal Savage. Have you read his conquests? The way he kills that giant bear, the way he, and there'll be times when the younger sister kind of catches the older sister being senile. It's like, why did you ask me that? You already asked me that before, like 5 minutes ago. So obviously, the older sister, or Vandal Savage's older daughter, um, is losing her mind. And in this arc, Vandal also is, there's this threat coming to the war world, and so he lets his younger daughter to take charge, while he kind of fights off that threat directly, like physically in person, because that's how Vandal Savage rolls. And also in this arc, you see Vandal Savage calling Darkseid, and you get a flashback of how they made a deal way back in the day, in the ancient era, when Vandal Savage went by the name of Genghis Khan. So for those of you, my fellow DC fans, you would know that Vandal Savage has gone through so many big chapters of our history books, of our history, at least the big ones, as famous history figures. Um, so what you would think is that person might actually be Vandal Savage. That's the entertaining part about this character, that he can assume, like, I mean, Genghis Khan is Vandal Savage. Come on, what other historical character could be Vandal Savage? So the possibility is limitless. Um, so that's the arc, and and then by the end you kind of see why the episode kind of focuses on Vandal Savage, or why the episode brings him back. Um, by the end of that, it doesn't necessarily give you a cliffhanger as to what um, Vandal Savage might, have in plan for the Young Justice. Maybe in the subsequent episodes, and we'll discuss that, of course. Um, but this is just a tribute, an homage, because by the end of that, once the end credits roll, the scene goes dark, and it says in loving, and it says in loving memory, Miguel Ferrer. Now, if you don't know who actor Miguel Ferrer was, he was a veteran character actor. He's been in so many movies and TV shows. I remember him in that short-lived Bionic Woman series, and he was also in RoboCop movie. Come on, my fellow RoboCop fans out there. What? Um, he was in Traffic, that Oscar-winning Best Picture film, and he did a lot of voice work over the years over his career. One of which, he was famous for voicing Vandal Savage in Young Justice season 1 and season 2. So Miguel Ferrer unfortunately passed away in 2017. Obviously, as you know, season 2 of Young Justice ended in 2013, I believe, right? 13. Um, so it's been 5 years, and now season 3 arrives. So the writers want to, and the producers want to dedicate a Vandal Savage episode in loving memory of Miguel Ferrer. And I think that's sweet. It's kind of bittersweet, because he passed on. And if you're wondering who is now the voice of Vandal Savage, I looked it up, and it's actor David Kay. David Kay is a very experienced voice actor. He's done a lot of voice roles over the years. And you know what? Having watched this episode, Evolution, I couldn't tell the difference between Miguel Ferrer's voice and David Kay. I think David Kay did a wonderful job of carrying on the torch and taking on the mantle from Miguel Ferrer. So yeah, that was a very sweet, bittersweet episode, Evolution. Now, as far as the other arc in this episode, the training thing, of course, it is the entertaining part of episode 7. Episode 7, when it comes to Vandal Savage aspect, it's like drama and it's serious. But the training with Breon Markov and Halo slash Violet and Forager, those are some entertaining scenes. You have got to see it if you want to be entertained. At one point, they, because they're given the suits, they're given their superhero suits, and so I'm telling you, man, I mentioned to you in my previous review of Young Justice Outsiders that for some reason, and I'm not complaining, the comedy or the humor in this new season is so much better than the previous seasons. Like, they got funnier. Like the jokes hit the target. Sorry, I gotta turn off my cell phone here. And it's like, whoa. um and so Forager, there's a joke in this episode where, because Halo and Breon Markov get a super suit, right? Their own costume, and Forager doesn't have, of course. Forager is like a bug, and he says something along the lines of like, I'm always naked. and, and he got everybody uncomfortable, because like, oh, now I see you kind of differently. Not in a prejudice differently, but it's like, oh, I never saw that as naked, but now that he told me, it's like, oh. and and at one point they were kind of picking nicknames for themselves. Forager, of course, just goes with Foragers. He can't think of any other nickname for himself. And Halo says, I will be Halo when I'm out there fighting crimes, and when I'm amongst friends, in privacy, I'll be Violet. So Halo slash Violet makes sense. Um, Brion Markov. It says, "I will be hot lava." I love it. I love it. I love it. Now I haven't looked up Brian Markov in the canon. I don't know. Maybe Hot Lava is actually his superhero name, but he comes up with another nickname, Geo Force, which is more fitting. And but it's just the whole uh, thing with the training and them kind of throwing jabs at each other, throwing jokes at each other. It's a fun group, man. It's a fun group. You can sense the camaraderie between them. It's so genuine. It's so fun. You watch them and you're like, oh man, I wish I had a clique or a group to belong to like that. It's like they're so tight. It's like reminds you of like a sorority or something. Um, so yeah, that's the other part of this evolution episode. The big chunk of it is dedicated to Vandal Savage and the memory of actor Miguel Ferrer. All right, so love it, love it. Okay, so let's go to episode 8. Where are you? Where's my notes? My notes are here somewhere. Okay, episode 8 is titled Triptych. And so what happens in episode 8? Where's my note here? Let me turn on my phone. Sorry, guys. Give me a second. Nope, that's not it. Okay, okay, so in Triptych, I don't want to explain the plot way too long here, but by the end of episode 7, um, it was suggested that Jefferson Pierce, Black Lightning, um, pretty much starts a romantic relationship with Helga, that woman who I mentioned in my previous review of Young Justice previous episode. She is the professor, the woman that kind of helped um, Brion Markov back in Markovia when Brion was, I guess, put in this pod and his meta gene was activated. So she was there throughout the whole thing. And so she is part of the refugee, if you will, right? Because Brion, Halo, and Forger, they're basically refugees. They're not wanted in their home planet anymore or home country anymore. And so they have to leave. And so she's among them too, but she's not a meta human. She's a professor. And Jefferson Davis, Jefferson, was it? That's it. Davis. Jefferson Davis is a Confederate president. Jefferson Pierce, Black Lightning. Let's just call it Black Lightning. Black Lightning has a romantic relationship with Helga, and in episode 8, the big part of that is that Black Lightning. Well, where's my notes here? I have my notes. Oh, okay. Ooh, sorry, I lost my notes for a second there. So Young Justice try to, I guess you could say, stop the criminal act of Cheshire and get the names here correctly. Livewire. Livewire is one of them too. And what are they going after? They're in this hangar. Apparently, Cheshire is like hurting from previous act, and at the same time, the other Young Justice, Robin and his team, they are going after the Mad Hatter, and because Mad Hatter is involved with this bigger conspiracy too, um, with regards to the metahumans. And by the end of this episode, you see Shazam and the Flash, um, and Wonder Woman and everybody ganging up together, and they pretty much laid out timeline sequence by sequence who's involved in that whole conspiracy of meta human trafficking, if you will, or like who is still in power, who's funding who. And Batman's also in that in this meeting, and it's like, this is what I find, because Batman's a freaking detective, so he gets everything down to the details. And and it gets to the point where, long story short, I'm sorry, I know I'm not explaining this really well, but let me just give you long story short. By the end of this episode, um, Wonder Woman feels that the whole thing with the Young Justice and Batman and Shazam and the Flash working this operation outside of parameters that are considered legal or official, she's not she's not comfortable with that. Even though this covert op, this working outside, hence outsiders, even though that has been fruitful, that has come up with results. It's like, now we know who's behind this, and we can go after them. But Wonder Woman, being the idealist that she is, she's all about doing things right, doing things the right way. She's like, I'm not comfortable, and she's not comfortable with also these covert op doing this operation, leaving the other Justice League members in the dark. Remember, because they're doing this on their own outside of the perimeter. So, like, Wonder Woman's not cool with that. It's like, um, what if you have to lie in court, when you have to testify and stuff like that? And apparently, the rest, or the team, the covert op team that's out, this outsiders, apparently they're cool with that. They're okay with that. They've made their choice. And to them, to Batman, Aqualad, Shazam, Flash, and the Young Justice, Robin and all these guys, to them, as long as we get the results, as long as we get the bad guys, and we're not like killing anybody in the process, why not? Uh, and their defense is that we're keeping the rest of the members in the dark, so those guys can have plausible deniability. It's like, hey, we didn't know. We didn't know. So so by us not involving them, we're actually helping them, so they won't get in trouble. Um, and so this episode is mostly, it's not necessarily entertaining or amusing. It This episode 8 brings up dilemmas, characters who feel conflicted, just like Artemis slash Tigress with Cheshire. Cheshire is voiced by Kelly Hu, one of my favorite actresses. Because Artemis and Tigress, or Artemis slash Tigress, says to Cheshire, "Hey, you gotta check out your child. You're a mother. How come you don't?" And then Cheshire tells Tigress, like, "Yes, okay, I'm a mother, but I'm Cheshire first. That will always be my first identity." As she puts on the mask and walks away from her responsibility as a mother. And so this episode really gets in the nitty gritty of some of these characters. Even though some of them are bad guys, they um, you can see that they're faced with the choices that, like, oh I know I'm supposed to do this because I'm a mother, or I'm supposed to do because it's the right thing to do, or whatever, but I can't because I'm this, because I'm Chester, because I've always been this, so I'm gonna take this route instead of that route. And the same thing with the superheroes too, with the Young Justice and Batman. It's like, I know what we're doing is kind of sketchy and shady and outside the Justice League. We're keeping everybody else in the dark, but man, we're 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 unraveling this mystery, this meta human trafficking thing, this whole business down to the T, by working outside of the Justice League parameters. So, um, and what did I tell you? What did I tell you from episode 1 of Young Justice Outsiders, when Batman resigned from the Justice League? I told you that Batman probably did not mean it. When he said he's resigning, he's like, I'm gonna do things the Batman way, the Batman Incorporated way. So going back in the dark, the Dark Knight, and doing things my own thing, my own way, my own people. Um, and so that's what he's been doing. Yeah, this episode is very, very interesting. It's not it's not what I would describe as entertaining, but it definitely gives you shades of these characters, whether it's the bad guys or the good guys. One last note I have here: there is one pretty interesting, mildly entertaining part in this episode 8. At the beginning part of it, if you have seen this episode 8, you would know exactly what I'm referring to, or what I'm talking about here. Um, at the beginning, Livewire and her team had this sexual innuendo jokes. I kid you not. One of them said something along the lines of, because he noticed the machinery that they're supposed to like steal. It's kind of, wow, this is bigger than I thought. It's huge. Yeah, and he's right. He's massive. And then Livewire said along the lines of, um, I thought you said size doesn't matter. Obviously, it's a penis reference innuendo. And then at one point, after he steals the machinery, the heavy machinery, he steals it away, and after exerting so much energy in doing so, in the process of doing so, and he's like, catching his breath, and the Young Justice outsiders are coming in, right? And so I think he said something along the lines to Livewire. He said, "Wow, that was a lot to swallow." And then Livewires responded and replied, um, "Man, you gotta stop handing me this easy lines. Come on, you know what that means. You know exactly what that means." That is totally sexual in nature. Um, and she's being smartass about it in her response. Um, and that goes to show, like, when Young Justice was on Cartoon Network, they would not have been able to get away with such lines by a mile. By a mile, they would not have. They would be so under a microscope. The writers would be like, oh, you can't have the characters say this, you can't have the characters joke about this, you can't have the characters imply this, sexual stuff. But in here on DC Universe, dude, no holds barred, man. No holds barred. Swallow, size. I'm telling you, this is not Young Justice. This is Young Adult Justice Outsiders. So that's that. I have that on my note. I just want to mention that before I move on to episode 9. How, yeah, Young Justice Outsiders being on DC Universe, it's like Young Justice Unleashed. The writers feel so free, they could just run around this playground and experiment with, adult theme lines that they probably couldn't have back when it was on Cartoon Network. All right, so the last one is Young Justice Outsiders season, Young Justice Outsiders episode 9, and the title is Home Fires. Home Fires. Let me get my notes here. Ah, yes, Home Fires. Guess who shows up in Home Fires? Lobo. Lobo. Lobo, my friend. Do you remember when Warner Brothers or New Line wanted to make a Lobo live action movie? I think they even threw around names like Dwayne Johnson as a possibility. Obviously, obviously, Dwayne Johnson ends up playing Black Adam in the upcoming live action film, whenever that's gonna whenever that's gonna get made. We keep hearing about it, but it hasn't gone into production yet. Um, so yeah, Lobo, interstellar galactic bounty hunter, and he has pretty much similar strength as Superman. The guy is quite invincible, and he's got this motorcycle that's pretty badass, and can do whatever he commands. So Lobo is bad guy slash anti-hero. In this episode, though, he's pretty bad. He's a bad guy. He's not an anti-hero. Um, so what happens is Lobo gets, of course, contract because he does his business through contracts. Like if somebody like, hey, I'm hiring you to kill that guy or to steal from that guy, that's pretty much his business. And so that's the arc, one arc of this episode. The other arc deals with Orm, the Ocean Master. Apparently, the Ocean Master is spying or peeping tomming on the daycare center of the superheroes daycare center. So you see uh, Roy Harper and Bart Allen there, and all the babies. Even Lois Lane shows up. Lois Lane shows up with her and Superman's son, Jonathan. And so it's like Orm is like looking from across the street, about to attack them. But then Lady Shiva shows up, and Lady Shiva attacks Orm. And uh, at first, I was kind of shocked. I was like, when that happened, I was like, "Whoa, what's going on?" I thought Lady Shiva would be there to kind of help Orm. You know, I thought she would be there, kind of like, "Okay, I'll lend you a hand. You wanna bring destruction to these superhero families that are just having fun, as a family. I'm with you. Let me help you out." Turns out, no. Lady Shiva kills Orm, and Lady Shiva comes to the end of the episode. She regroups with the rest of the bad guys, including Vandal Savage. So now we see. Remember, I mentioned to you that in the previous season, I'm sorry, in the previous episode 7, it's an episode, a tribute, an homage to Vandal Savage. We didn't see exactly what his master plan is for Young Justice or Justice League. In episode 8, in this one, by the end of it, Lady Shiva, after she kills Orm, she goes to Vandal Savage, and you could tell that she's teaming up with the other villains, and they have a master plan. So it seems that Lady Shiva may have killed Orm because killing those, superhero kids, those little babies, it's not part of the villain's plan, the villain's master plan. They got a bigger picture that that they're trying to accomplish. And so if Orm causes this massacre, it would ruin pretty much their plan. It would bring distraction or attention to when they're not, they don't need that kind of attention or heat at the moment. They're still cooking things up. So that turns out to be the reason why Lady Shiva kills Orm, the Ocean Master. The other arc also is the introduction of Granny uh Good. God, I have a brain fart right now. So she's one of the bad guys, and so you get to see her in this episode. Gretchen Good, Granny Goodness is a villain. She's an actual villain. Look it up. She's been in a lot of DC animated series in the past, and so she shows up in Young Justice as this. I guess you could describe her as a philanthropist, and somebody who kind of means well or has good intention. But as you know, the road to hell is paved with good intention, so we never know. And by the end of the episode, bam, you see her as Granny Goodness, the villain. Um, so that's the other arc, the other part of this episode. And of course, the big chunk is Lobo. So Lobo comes and fights the Young Justice that are training Forager, Halo, and Brian Markov. And man, they give Lobo a fight, and Lobo gave them a run for their money. All right, so and this is not a training. This is an actual bounty hunter that aims to kind of hurt them or kill them. And so um at one point, Lobo beats up Forager to death, or seemingly so. And then Forager, like, I mean, Lobo feels satisfied about that, and then he leaves on his cycle, of course, and everybody just feels sad. By the way, before he kills Forager, he also kills Violet, or Halo. But remember, Halo slash Violet can heal herself. She can come back from the dead. That's one of her powers. And guess what? Turns out Forager has some similar trick. Not necessarily kind of resurrect himself, but he would kind of he what he did was that he tricked Lobo into thinking that he killed or smashed this shell. That, because freaking Forager runs around his shell wheel, um, and so Lobo's like, "Oh my god, I've killed one of them! Awesome, awesome! So I'm off now." And everybody's feeling sad. Oh, Forager died! No! And Forager comes out from the behind the rock, looking all naked and pink and gooey. And it's like, "Yeah, what's up, guys? I'm still here. I'm Forager." so so Forager now pretty much enters the exclusive club of characters who can't die or can trick people into thinking that they've died. um Artemis is one of them too. Remember, Artemis uh tricked us, the audiences, into thinking that she died or she got killed by Aqualad when she actually did not. And it's funny when Lobo kills Halo slash Violet, um, because it's so brutal, man. It's so violent. Again, it's on DC Universe, so they can push the envelope. But on top of that, this is not the first time that Halo slash Violet has died in this season, in this Young Justice Outsiders, in this season 3. She has died multiple times before, and each time that she resurrects herself, she discovers some new ability or new power about herself that she did not know that she had. And with this one, it's so funny, it's amusing, because when that happens and then she comes back, and I'm thinking, this is like the fourth or fifth time that that it has happened this season. At least fourth or fifth time, to my account, at least. And the the thing that I remember immediately when that happened again in this episode was Kenny from South Park. Because I'm a huge fan of South Park, and I'm like, wow, so Violet or Halo are basically the Kenny of Young Justice. Remember Kenny, my fellow South Park fans? Oh my God, they killed Kenny! That was like the running gag for like a big chunk of South Park, at least till up to, I want to say, season 14, maybe, until they stop it, until they become, South Park ultimately or eventually evolve or morph into um, stories or episodes that make fun of political events or current events. But before that, it was every episode Kenny would die, and it's like by some brutal death, and then people are like, "Oh my God, they killed Kenny!" And then, of course, the next episode, Kenny is alive again, and by the end of that episode, Kenny gets killed again. And so it's funny. That's the first thing that came to my mind when I saw this episode. This is like the fifth time that I've seen uh, Halo Violet died, fifth or fourth, maybe fourth, but it's like it brought me back to Kenny. Oh my God! So Halo slash Violet is the Kenny of Young Justice, and that amuses me. That puts a smile on my face. It doesn't crack me up. I'm not rolling on the floor hysterical, but it's just like, wow, she's Kenny basically. Um, that said, hey, good for Halo, good for Forger, good for Artemis. They know how to fake their deaths or at least resurrect themselves, whatever. But the rest of the team members, they don't have that ability. So yeah, I guess my point is, be careful, man, because Lobo can kill you, and you won't be able to come back from it if you're not Halo or Artemis or Forger. So that's basically the episode 9. My overall thought about episode 7, 8, 9 is that I love it. I'm so glad Young Justice Outsiders is around on DC Universe, and I hope you guys get to watch them. Um, Maybe sooner or later, at least before Doom Patrol. Doom Patrol arrives February 14, I believe, Valentine's Day. So before that arrives, come. I encourage you. I recommend you to go check out Young Justice Outsiders, because this has been a fantastic season. The writing is a lot sharper. The comedy is a lot funnier. The action sequences are a lot better directed, better staged, better executed than previous seasons. So you will get the bang for your buck when you watch the Young Justice Outsiders. I guarantee you that you won't get disappointed. If you love Young Justice Outsiders, I'm sorry, if you love Young Justice series, you will definitely love Young Justice Outsiders. If you are fans of the previous seasons, the previous 2 seasons, you are gonna be stoked by this new season 3, because it has not disappointed me yet. And yeah, I can't wait to see what Vandal Savage and Cheshire and Lady Shiva and Granny Goodness, that whole team, they're ganging up together. Can't wait to see what they're up to, and can't wait to see the collision, the clash, the ultimate battle by the end of this season. So yeah, that's it. Those are my thoughts, my long rant, my long review of Young Justice Outsiders episode 7, 8, and 9. And stay tuned for my review of episodes 10, 11, and 12 next Friday when those 3 new episodes arrive. As always, subscribe to my channel, press that like button, ring that bell, and if you can help support this channel, please do so at patreon.com/ramascreen. Every penny helps. If it's $2 per month, that helps a lot. That helps a lot. I do a lot. I cover red carpet. I cover red carpet. I cover press junkets. I cover film festivals like the South by Southwest that I just got approved to cover, and I cover Comic Cons like WonderCon and San Diego Comic Con and Long Beach Comic Con and Anime Expo. So just for you guys. So help me out. If you can support me, do so at patreon.com/ramascreen. All right, you guys, have a good weekend. I'll post another new video tomorrow. Let's rock this.